I talked to my friend Lo Carter, who is an R&B singer in Nashville, Tennessee, and I asked her a few questions about her background and her experience with R&B. Here's what she had to say.
Gladys Knight influenced me so much because she could do so much with her mid-range. A lot of the popular singers at the time, like Aretha Franklin and like Chaka Khan, were noted for being able to belt into the rafters. But I was impressed with Gladys, and it sounded different to my ear and pleasing to my ear because she could do so much and emote and just make me feel that passion and intensity just in that mid-range or in her lower range. And she still had range now. Don't get us wrong. She could go up and do some things, but she chose the times when she would do that. And it I don't know, it was so classy to me. She's just classy and sophisticated.
I love her. She has a gospel influence too, though.
She does. So I just feel this common thread with her. And there's also Betty Wright. When it comes to stage performance, Tina Turner was,
of course,
she was just working hard up there.
Right, she was dancing her butt off.
Yes, she was, and still does.
Right.
So those are some of my soul influences, but I also have some jazz influences for some similar reasons. Sarah Vaughan could every single note. She could take every single note and make you feel something with each note. And it just taught me the importance of caring about not only every single note, but every single lyric that you're singing.
Right.
So as you're approaching these songs, you know, if she's talking about a feeling of, you know, let down, her voice would bend a little bit in a way that would go downward. It would make you feel that even more.
Right. She expressed the lyric through what she was singing.
Yes. And so I loved that about her. So she's one of my favorites. And some other people who were known for just having eclectic voices. And, you know, I appreciate what Ella Fitzgerald was able to do with her scatting. I don't think that I've even come close.
I don't think anybody's come close.
But Rochelle Farrell is really good.
Oh, she's amazing.
She is. But Ella, what she could do with a scalar line, ridiculous.
Right.
Okay?
Well, she had that big band experience that most of us haven't had. So.
Right. That's true. That's true. So her, and I like the eclectic sound of Billie Holiday. So those are some of my influences. I feel like I was forgetting one. Anita Baker.
I love Anita. She's almost my favorite, I think.
Yeah. For some of the same reasons. If we can combine some of the reasons that I like the soul artists and the reasons why I like the jazz artists and put them into one singer, then that would probably be Anita Baker.
Yep, she's got all those influences.
Yeah.
And I heard that she was told that she should give up singing because she didn't have a voice.
Yes. It's ironic. Not only Anita Baker, but also Roberta Flack.
Really?
Were in music, teaching music, things of that nature, told, you know, don't do that.
Well, it is a hard career.
It's a very hard career, but hey, if you know that's where your calling is, you know that's where your heart is.
Right.
You gotta follow your heart.
Right. Exactly. What do you think about what they call riffing or melismas and ornamentation and all of that? It seems like the classic R&B artists, you know, going back to Etta James, that kind of era, didn't do a whole lot of that. They kind of just sang the melody. But nowadays, there's a whole lot of riffing going on, and sometimes you can't even hear the melody. So what's your opinion on that?
You know what? I was thinking about that. I was in one of my classes, and we were talking about bel canto singers, and I was just kind of comparing it to today. I was like, well, that's kind of what's going on. They're just really showcasing their voices, and the producers and writers are, they want them to do that, you know, so they're writing the material so that they have the space and the room to do all that, you know, riff stuff. I'm not into it too much, but you can tell that kind of by the influences that I have. You know, Etta James was also another one. And just, you know, trying to express the lyrics so much. But I would also say with some of the artists nowadays, the lyrics aren't as important as long as there's some rhyme and as long as it's catchy and it's clever and it's memorable, then that's what's important. You know, it has a good melody. And so for them, they can spend more time doing riffs and things like that. But when you get into soul music, which is very different from the R&B pop or the R&B hip hop that we're hearing, when you get into soul music, you still hear artists like Jill Scott, like Anthony Hamilton, like even Erykah Badu. You're not going to hear a whole lot of that riff stuff.
Right.
Angie Stone. They're escaping me, but those are some of the major ones. Even Maxwell and some of the pioneers in neo soul. You're not going to hear them doing a whole lot of shenanigans and scales. It's not shenanigans, y'all, but you're not going to hear them doing a whole lot of scales and riffs and all that kind of stuff, because they're spending more time with the lyrics, with the expression, with the passion and intensity in their voice, and I appreciate that.
There's still a soulful, the blue notes, where they're kind of moving around on the pitch a little bit. So how would you suggest a student learn how to sing soulfully? Because it's not just the straight melody.
I'll say this: everybody's voice is different, okay? And so when you discover the various timbres, the various qualities of your voice that you love so much, then you'll also have to discover, what is it about those qualities that you love so much? You know, is it the fact that it's light and it's bright and it's airy? If you're one of those singers and that's what you like about your voice, you love that about your voice, then you may have more space to do those riffs. And if that's what you want to do, then you definitely have to get into practicing scales. You have to run them, and then you have to run them to speed, to tempo.
Because they can't be sloppy.
They can't be sloppy, and you have to be able to do them quickly in order to be effective, and in order to be able to call on them and use them effectively. So if you're one of those singers that has that type of voice, you maybe take that route. However, if you're one of those singers that has a richer, a warmer voice, that, a long tone or some other tones would move someone just as much, well, then you may want to focus on your long tones, focus on your breath, focus on those types of exercises that would encourage the development of each note, and giving you more space to do more with the bends, with the blue note per se, instead of focusing on riffs and things.
Right, I agree with you. I think sometimes the over-embellishment, it just gets in the way, but it is a stylistic choice.
It's definitely a choice. I have to respect those men and women that have chosen to use their voice the way they felt was the most effective. I chose differently, but, for them, it's worked for them, and they like it. I hear a lot of gospel singers do it, and that wasn't always the case, for those that are going into gospel music. And you don't have to feel compelled to do that just because. Like, when I was first singing in church, I didn't really like all the growling and stuff, and that was popular. That was a popular technique that was being used at that time. But, I felt I didn't want to do that, and I was still getting called on to do leads and things like that. So you have to choose the route that you think is most effective for your voice and the things that you like in your voice and what you want to develop. Of course, you're going to work in a situation where you're going to do session work, and you're going to maybe do cover work. If you're doing productions and things like that, because that's important since we're talking to students. If you know that you want to go on Broadway, if you know that you want to do off-Broadway productions, even those types of musicals, some of the Disney work, you're required to be able to do some different scales. You're required to be able to reach particular notes, belting, and head voice, and they're specific about it. So if you know that you want to go into those careers, I would strongly encourage you to just work at all of those different aspects that you're hearing some of your mentors and some of the people that you look up to do, so that you can be effective and you can get work.
Right, I've always thought that's the best way to learn, is at first we do copy other people.
Exactly.
And it's not really stealing. I mean, even guitar players do that. You have to learn these little riffs, and then boom, over and over and over, and then you've got it, and then you incorporate it into your own style.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Performing on stage and working with male musicians as a woman, have you felt any kind of struggles with that?
There's definitely a bit of thick skin that females have to have when working in a male-dominated industry like music, a lot of times they don't realize even that they're being a particular way. Sometimes they don't realize it, sometimes they do. You know what I mean? And I've noticed that occasionally, you know, it's like, oh, she's a singer, you know, she doesn't know. And then they find out you know some theory, and they're like, what? You know theory? I was like, oh, I'm so impressed. Like, they expect us not to know.
I know. They think dumb chick singers, right? But once you prove that you're a strong musician, they have more respect for you.
They do. They do. And so with that, I would encourage females to know your stuff.
Exactly. Yay. Power. Power.